I'm extremely conflicted over Hellblade's runtime. This is the last article I have for the day. I'm actually just, consider me not all that surprised, but just also blown away by the absolute absurdity of this after everything I've been talking about with this game and everything I've seen about it and all my worries about it. And then we read this, okay? So this will be the last article I talk about. Then we're going to go play games for the rest of the day. It'll probably be something around like a two-part kind of day. I've got something going around midday where I've got to step away for a little bit, and then I'll come back and probably play for a while longer. But we'll figure that out. Depending on how many people are playing along with me today, I could just leave stuff up and running and shut the stream down. I could shut everything down. Could just leave it running because I won't be gone too long. We'll see how it goes. But either way, I'll have to step away for a little bit. It shouldn't be but for probably around 30 minutes or so, and then I'll be back, but we'll figure it out. So let's talk about this, and then we'll get into gaming. I'm extremely conflicted over Hellblade's runtime. So the Hellblade 2 will only take around 8 hours to beat. And while short games aren't bad, they can't be sustainable on 5-year development cycles. So, no, not all short games are bad. But let me tell you something. The majority of my concerns for everything I've been seeing about Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 not being a true video game and being a cinematic experience with a little bit of interactivity in it, which is what I'm suspecting this game is, and everything that I am seeing and being shown about this game leads me to believe it actually is. I now hearing that it's only going to take around 8 hours to beat is just further reinforcing the idea that this is not a true video game. This is going to be a visual experience with a little bit of gameplay mechanic in it. The thing that sucks is they're not promoting it as that. They're promoting it as a video game, and I'm not a fan of that. Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga feels like a money where your mouth is sort of game for me. I've said for a long time the current way games are developed is unsustainable, and quoted the famous slogan, "I want shorter games with worse graphics, made by people paid more to work less," and I'm not kidding. But seeing Hellblade 2 clock in at under 10 hours has me conflicted. Firstly, Hellblade doesn't quite fit this gaming motto. It does not have worse graphics. Despite being a fairly small studio of around 100 employees, admittedly under the Microsoft umbrella, Hellblade has cutting-edge visuals. Because it's a flippin' movie. It's not going to be a video game. This is going to be a visual experience. It's not going to be a true video game. It has been in development for at least 5 years, which may have included people working less for money, but less for more money, but it still doesn't solve gaming sustainability problem. Hellblade 2, like many video games around today, is a game that took half a decade and likely a huge amount of money to make, comes out the other end looking pristine. The only difference is many of its peers do that and end up with a 20-hour experience, and Hellblade is offering less than half that. I don't believe in a minutes to dollar value conversion in gaming, nor do I. I actually had to reply to somebody on YouTube last night. I get so sick of people like trying to comment on videos when they don't actually listen to everything that's being said in the videos, or they don't actually watch the videos or whatever, but I don't often reply. I'm just like, okay, well, whatever, this person's dumb. They didn't actually take in all the information of the video. They just wanted to comment or whatever. But there's a video where what was the title of that video, man? I don't know. I'll have to pull it up. But basically I was talking about, it was about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth skins being put in Apex. And I talked about free to play games and how they have to make money, and I think it's it's something that we have to address as a gaming community, that it's appropriate that we consider giving back to a lot of these developers that make like free-to-play titles. The reason I'm pivoting into this conversation of this topic right now is because they brought up this 20-hour experience, right? end up with a 20-hour experience. AAA price tag, dude. We see this all the time, and this was my reply last night. So I had to reply to this person because they were like, well, you know, and again, they didn't listen to all my sentiments in the video. It was obvious. But they tried to present this analogy of, well, time of entertainment in a video game and paying for the amount of time and entertainment you get in a video game isn't a good argument because, you know, what if the same thing was to be said for something like a baseball glove or something like that, where you had to pay every time you used it? And I was like, dude, you literally didn't listen to anything about the video. You know, so if people want to say that it's, you know, there's not a good argument for playtime versus how much you're paying and stuff, but there is on some fronts, right? So you want to talk about like a AAA experience, right? Which is what Senua's Saga 2 is being brought to us as. A AAA experience. Now, we don't know exactly how... they're already pushing this out, right? Is Senua's Saga 2 already being pre-order and stuff? Is it? Are they $50 price pointing this? They don't have a price point on it yet. They don't have a price point on it yet. Okay, so we don't know how much it's going to cost yet. Probably AAA price tag though. Probably, yeah. We'll see. But how often do we see games come out? Like, I'll give you an example. Here recently we saw Spider-Man 2, right? Spider-Man 2 had a main story game time of roughly 20 hours. Yeah. And you're paying $70 for that. Now, everybody's going to have a different viewpoint on whether or not that's worth it to you or not. Insomniac makes great content. And, you know, is that content at $70 worth a 20-hour experience of game time? This is what people have to start discerning for themselves. Now, after talking about that, when you take into consideration something like a free-to-play game, where people are potentially getting hundreds of hours and not paying a cent, is it not appropriate for people to approach those free-to-play games that you obviously enjoy enough to get hundreds of hours of playtime and take a moment and go, I should probably support these developers in some form or fashion, you know? Because I think it is. You're willing to pay $70 for 20 hours of gameplay, but you're not willing to take a step back and give back to a developer that's giving you hundreds of hours of gameplay for free, you know? And then somebody wants to try to put a comment in a YouTube video last night about, you know, like, there's not a valid argument on that front at all, you know? When there is, in some contexts, it's not, just a totally black and white topic. There's some gray area there that people need to understand and address. Am I somebody that's going to go, yeah, you know, anytime you get, you know, any video game at all, anytime you boot it up, you know what I mean, and you play it, you should have to pay? Absolutely not. That's asinine. It doesn't make any sense. But we are definitely in this, you know, industry now where I think everybody has to take a hard look at, you know, what you're getting from AAA companies versus what you're getting for things that quite often you get to play for free, and which one's worth supporting more. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to feel a little bit different, you know, and a lot of that's going to be respective to your current, like, financial, you know, situation, right? But it's an appropriate thing to kind of take a look at. Yeah, and I think that that's okay. As long as, you know what I mean, you're getting you know, if you're getting entertainment out of a game and, you know, pay back a little bit every once in a while, whatever. But there's the other side of it is, like, there's a lot of very scummy stuff that happens in the monetization of games as well. So, I mean, it's something you have to be careful about, right? So I think that was one of the things I was trying to bring up about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Apex Legends skins, was that, you know, there are good ways to go about trying to get support from your community in those, you know, from a developer standpoint. And there's a very scummy way too, which is what Apex Legends mashup with Final Fantasy VII and Square Enix felt like. Felt really gross, right? But I digress. You know, let's get back into what we're talking about here. So Hellblade is offering less than half that. Don't believe in a minutes to dollar value conversion in gaming. I don't either. Several of my favorite video games from last year were shorter than Hellblade. Slay the Princess, Space for Unbound, Cocoon, Goodbye Volcano High, all made my Game of the Year list with shorter runtimes. But they're going to be much lower price points too, right? And I'm going to say this. Most of these games here are probably going to be more of a video game experience than Hellblade will be. But Hellblade looks the way it does because it wants to fit in with the AAA crowd. The burden to carry Xbox through 2024 is lessened by the release dates for Avowed and Indiana Jones, but no Xbox exclusive is without pressure. It might come out at like a $50 price point. It might. No Xbox exclusive is without pressure. Fans may call it the Xbox tax, but the cold hard truth is PlayStation was very successful in the PS4 era thanks to a slew of exclusives, and Xbox decided if you can't beat them, join them. It was brought up. It has brought up twin behemoths in Bethesda and Activision to make this a reality, but so far its efforts have floundered. Ironically, the one Xbox exclusive that has lodged itself into gaming culture is Hi-Fi Rush, which eschewed AAA visual trappings for a funkier, far more original art style. Hellblade's art style is already set by the first game, which I liked well enough, but so I'm not sure where it could go. I guess I mostly don't like that an 8-hour game takes 5 years to make, as impressive as Hellblade may be, either visually or in terms of game. Dude, I don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way this game is going to be impressive in terms of gameplay. I think it's going to be actually very, very minimalistic in terms of gameplay. It's going to be a visual, cinematic experience. I'm seeing nothing gameplay-wise here that it is in any of the things that has been shown about this game so far, and the game is very close to releasing, that has led me to believe there's going to be anything significantly cool about the gameplay of this game. The industry cannot sustain itself on 2 short games a decade. That's what I'm saying, King. I don't know for sure. I'm guessing it'll probably be a $50 or $60 price point, but it'll also be on Game Pass. So that's something, right? That's always something we have to keep in mind with Microsoft, their subsidiaries, stuff like that. It will be on Game Pass day one. So if anybody's interested in it, I think that, you know, that's probably the best thing you can do is play it on Game Pass. Because I honestly, I think there are a lot of people out there that have a high propensity for looking at a video game to be a visually appealing thing first. And that's not me. I want a game that feels, you know, very performance-wise, feels very good. I want a game that has awesome gameplay features and mechanics and stuff like that. I want it to be very engaging, and I don't want to watch a movie while I'm playing a video game. If I get a good, nice cutscene and cinematic every once in a while, that's awesome, dude. I'm cool with that. But if I'm sitting there for 6 of these or 5 of these 8 hours of this game, and all I'm doing is twiddling my thumbs together, not on joysticks, you know, I'm gonna be pissed, because that's not a video game. That's a movie. And that's what I think this is gonna be. Last year, another Xbox showcase claimed Hellblade would push boundaries. My thought at the time was why. Some would argue this is the primary purpose of art. There was not a sense that these were necessarily creative boundaries, but technological and budgetary restrictions that needed to be broken to keep up with the Joneses over at Sony. Facial animation does not a game make. My issue is less that the game took 5 years. More that those 5 years have been spent making Senua look like, look her sinewiest rather than anything interesting. So do I actually want shorter games, or is that just a thing I say because I don't like where the industry is heading? Suppose the assumption is that these shorter games also have shorter, more comfortable development cycles, rather than 5 years of breaking boundaries. It's nothing against Hellblade personally. Take out Sunset Overdrive, and it's my favorite Xbox exclusive of the past 15 years. It's just maybe I should have said I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding, and they shouldn't take 5 years to make. But part of it is probably selfish. I enjoy video games, and waiting 5 years for 8 hours doesn't seem exciting. Agreed. There is a more, if not altruistic, than at least pragmatic approach here. Video games aren't going to move away from the allure of crafting the biggest, blockiest, bustingest games around, but will likely need to be embrace the 1.5 game. Think Spider-Man Miles Morales style spin-offs to keep to a regular enough release rhythm to be sustainable. Hellblade clocking in at 8 hours makes it feel like a 1.5 game, despite being a core sequel, and games of this size cannot consistently take 5 years to make. No way, dude. Yeah, it is a weird look. It feels weird. Ultimately, Hellblade will be judged, good or bad, when it arrives, and I'd probably have the same sustainability fears if we found out it was 100 hours long. Luckily, there are numbers between 8 and 100. Clearly, this is where my own personal video game magic number lies. Hellblade was a key part of Xbox's great showcase last night. That was not a great showcase, by the way. And Xbox feels like it's moving in the right direction. 5 years for 8 hours is not an equation games can do for very long if they want to answer to be profit. Yeah, absolutely. What would I say the best game was? You mean of the Xbox showcase? Is that what you mean, King? Is that what you're asking? So again, man, I think that if you're gonna create a game like this or a piece of software like this, and you're going to, you know, I think you have to promote this. Dude, I don't know yet. This game hasn't released. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong on release, dude, I will retract my statements. I will admit that I was wrong, but I literally haven't seen anything about Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Leads me to believe this is anything other than mostly a cinematic visual novel type of experience where you're just going to be watching a story. And for me, that's not really a video game. There might be some button presses in there occasionally, some joystick holding, stuff like that. That's not really a video game. And for me, instead of promoting this and marketing this as a video game, it should be marketed as such. It should be marketed as a visual, cinematic experience, not a game. Because I am about 95% sure this is exactly what I'm calling it out to be.